That is a bucktail jig. I'm going to show you in this three-part series how to make your own bucktail jigs from scratch. You know what? If you can run down to the tackle shop, buy 2 or 3 of these and they last you a season, don't do this. Go buy your jigs, fish them. But you know what? Flounder fishing like we do, we'll lose dozens of these sometimes in a day. So this actually helps you cut your costs, and you get to make the jigs the way you want. Much more durable than many of them that you can buy in the tackle store. So there'll be links to all the equipment that I show you down in the description below. Make sure you check that out. And I will show you step by step how to do this in this three-part series. We're going to start with pouring them, show you all the equipment you need, the tricks, all the stuff that would take you dozens of videos anywhere else. I'm going to give it to you right here so you know how to do this yourself. So stick with us. We'll get right to it. Alright, here's all the equipment that you're going to need. I'll kind of go around the circle here. This is a fluid bed, and there's tutorials how to make these online. I'll explain this when we get to the paint part of the video series. Paint, a little fish tank aerator. Of course, you're going to need needle nose pliers, a small ladle, which will come in handy with your lead pot, some clear head cement, some eyeballs. I don't have a bucktail on here, but you get the idea. A heat gun, you're going to need a heat gun. A toaster oven with some way to hang the jigs inside the toaster oven. Some toaster ovens already have it. Your jig hooks, made to fit. The mold for whatever jigs you're going to be pouring. I'm recommending a respirator. Guys, you're melting lead. Stuff's not good for you. There's a lot of smoke involved in this, especially if you're fluxing the lid. I'm going to show you how to do all that. You should have a good respirator. Spend the money. And, of course, a lead melter of some kind. That's a Lee lead melter for bullet making. Works great for sinkers. It's very, very precise. And that's pretty much it. There's probably, I don't know, $150 to $200 worth of stuff here on the table. So getting started isn't the cheap part. It's not going to get cheap until you do a whole lot of jigs. All right, for the beginning, we're going to talk about just forming, molding your jigs. There's one that I already did in 1.5 ounces, and we'll be doing 2 ounce tonight. But this thing does a great job. You want to plug in your lead pot, put your mold on top of it. It'll heat your mold up while it's melting your lead. This is already full of lead. And I'll show you how to flux your lead too, which is important to get a really nice smooth pour like this. So stick with us. That's going to have to heat up for probably about 20 minutes or so, and we'll be right back. So one of the things you need to do with a new mold is you need to soot it so the mold won't stick to the lead, or vice versa. So the way you do that is you get a candle going. See how it makes that black smoke? That's how you soot these things up. So you want to soot up those pockets for the jigs real good. Turn them nice and black. I've already done it on the 2 ounce and the 1 ounce. And that way your lead won't stick. Alright, so our lead is hot. The mold is pretty well warm. One of the things you need, you got to have a ladle to get in here to this lead, and this ladle needs to warm up too. Watch, the lead will just stick to it when it's cool. So let that ladle warm up a little bit. Anything that's not lead will float. There's a little bit of crap on this. I've already fluxed this lead, so it's pretty good and clean, as you can see. But I want to show you how to flux it, because it took me a little trial and error to figure it out, and it's real simple. You just take a little candle wax, and bust off a little pea-sized piece and drop it in there. And it'll smoke and steam and maybe fire up a little bit. And that brings all the impurities of your lead to the top where you can scrape them off. Okay. Alright, the mold is pretty hot, but what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and pour some lead in here to get it hot the rest of the way. I don't have any hooks in here. You see the lead just going in real good? That lets you know that this thing's plenty hot. So that's just a little test pour. Make sure your lead's the right temperature. Settle that back down to where I know it's good. And we can put those right back in and remelt it very carefully. Now, I'm just pouring the 2 ounce ones. So what we want to do is put the hook in there, the right size hook. Close the mold up. And just line that thing up and pour away. Comes to the top, let it cool just for a few seconds. And there's your jig ready to go. The hooks are not hot right away. It'll get hot, but for starters, it's not real hot. Put another hook in there. As you can see, if I was pouring all three of these sizes with the appropriate hooks, it would go very fast. All right. So you get the idea. We'll do a couple more real quick. This might be a little bit easier to see. But it's really pretty simple. You notice I'm not using gloves. Probably should. But as long as you keep your hands off the hot stuff, these wood handles don't get hot. That's one of the great things about the do-it molds versus some of the old-timey ones that didn't have handles. And it's that quick. The aluminum molds also shed the heat quickly, so you can move on to the next jig. That's pretty much all it is to pour them. Now that you got your jigs poured, you end up with this thing sticking off the end called a sprue. There's a couple of ways you can deal with this. One is with these neat little clippers. They're called a gate cutter. And you can just use that to trim that sprue right off. It makes a nice cut. Works wonderful. So you get close up there. Alright, so the sprue cutter does a good job, or gate cutter, making a nice clean cut. The other way you can do it, once the jigs are cooled off, just take your needle nose pliers and just bend that back and forth, and it will come off. And it will come off pretty much just as good, as long as it's cool first. So let the jigs cool off. This is the easiest, fastest way to do it. Just take them, bend them back and forth, snap them off, and drop your little sprue back in the lead pot. There you go. So that's it. It's really all there is to it. To pour your own jig heads, sinkers, whatever. You need a lead pot, you need a mold, a ladle, needle nose pliers, and a cheap candle. That's pretty much it. It's probably $110, $125 worth of stuff to pour lead into jigs and sinkers and things like that. So it's a little bit of an investment. There are links in the description below to all of these things to help you find them if you can't find them locally. And you get to make the baits your way. So hope that helped you out. We'll see you next time.